Welcome everybody to tonight's session. In case you're not totally sure where you are, tonight we're talking about LinkedIn for job search and career development. So let me share my screen just so that you can see what I will be sharing. That's great. You should be able to see a slide now. Um, so I love that this is a small group. It means that we can really dig deep into everyone's questions and what you want to go over tonight. But first, some logistics to help us all stay oriented. So I will dive into that. So first of all, as Darren said, the session is being recorded. You'll get links to the presentation afterwards. Please ask your questions in the chat window. I find that even with a super small group, having people chime in verbally over Zoom is really disruptive. And especially because we have so much material to get through, we are going to stick with everyone staying muted the entire time. So if you have questions, put it in the chat whenever they come up, and I'm looking right at the chat window right now. I have a pretty good system, so I don't think I'll miss anything. I may, choose my times for addressing questions, but we should be able to get to everyone's question tonight because we have such a small group, which is great. I also have dedicated breaks for Q&A to make sure that I've addressed everyone's questions that have come up while I was talking. And finally, I don't know if those of you who are here tonight were at last month's session, but we are now professional acquaintances. So please do connect with me on LinkedIn, and I am more than happy to discuss elements of what we go over tonight or over the course of the rest of the workshop series with you. I am more than happy to answer other questions that might come up or review your profile or provide any other advice or help I might be able to give to you. And if you're wondering how to connect with me on LinkedIn, well, then you're in the right place because we are actually going to go over that together tonight. That's one of the things we'll go over. So what's next? All right. So about me, I've been in marketing for about 15 years now. So that's kind of my day job. I've been in tech and nonprofit marketing. I was laid off in June of 2020 and then again in December of 2021. So I'm actually currently looking for a job myself, and I am leaning heavily on my LinkedIn network in order to do so. So I am actually on a daily basis using a lot of the strategies that we go over in this session, and I am using them right now. And they are having some really great results for me. So this is not just theory that I'm sharing with you, but this is being put to the test, has been put to the test. Not only that, but over the course of my career, I have and will continue to use LinkedIn to find and hire great candidates as well. So I've really seen it from both sides of the aisle and experienced it. I have not, nor am I, and have never been officially affiliated with LinkedIn. So I'm not paid by them. I'm not, particularly good friends with anyone that even works there, actually, now that I think about it. So I just think that LinkedIn as a platform and as a network is a really powerful tool for those of us who are looking to develop our careers. And I want to share what I've learned along the way. And you might actually hear me actually complain about certain aspects of LinkedIn, because we all know that that a lot of tech tools can be pretty annoying sometimes. So I think that's it about me. Now I want to learn a little bit about you. So if you could please post in the chat window why you're here tonight, what you're hoping to learn, what your goals are. This will help me tailor the session and what I talk about to make sure that it's as valuable as possible for each of you. So I see that Manish already started that. That's great, but please feel free to add more information, or the rest of you, please feel free to continue to post details about yourselves that you're willing to share to help me get to know you a little bit. So I'll give you each a couple minutes to do that. And if you don't have anything specific you want to make sure you learn or no goals that you want to share for our session tonight, that's totally fine. I've got plenty of material to go through otherwise. And as questions or thoughts or topics come to you, you can feel free to put them into the chat box, and I will address them as they come in. Great. Okay, so okay, so some of these things we're going to address directly tonight. Some of them are either specialties of session 1 or are topics that we'll cover next month in session 3. That being said, once again, we have a really small group tonight, so I should be able to address more specific questions from each of you, even if it's not officially in tonight's agenda. But I do want to make sure that we get through tonight's agenda as well. So I'm going to launch into the main material for tonight. And then as we hit Q&A time, I'll be able to go back and address some of the initial questions that I see each of you have put into the chat box so far. All right, so for those of you that may not understand what I'm talking about when I talk about session 1 and session 3, this is actually a 3-part series, and tonight is session 2. The series, I call it level 1, level 2, level 3, because it's really about level of sophistication and depth with which we utilize LinkedIn in order to pursue career goals. In level 1, we went over how to create an account. We took a tour of the interface, and we spent most of our time talking about how to build a great profile. So for those of you who have questions about how to update a profile, what to put in the profile, how to make a strong profile based on what your goals are, most of that material is in session 1. You'll find it in session 1. But again, we'll have time to address specific questions during Q&A time. Tonight is all about building your network, right? So once you've got your strong profile, then it's about leveraging that to build a network that's going to work for you for achieving your goals. So with whom should you connect? How do you connect with them? How do you keep them engaged and strong and keep those connections strong so that they're there for you when you need to leverage those connections for career moves. And then in level 3, we talk about how to actually go about doing that. So how to search for jobs using LinkedIn and apply for jobs, the ways that you should be leveraging your network in order to give you a leg up in the job search and application and interview processes. And then we shift gears and go a step further and become even more sophisticated. And we talk about how you can use elements of the LinkedIn platform to build a very strong brand, a strong reputation that actually has people coming to you with opportunities for professional growth or for jobs versus you having to seek it out and find them yourselves. It's a thing. I promise it can happen. And I'll show you next month some of the ways to start building that for yourself. So let's keep going. All right. So as I said, in session 2, we're talking about your network, how to build a strong network. Once you've got your profile built, super impressive place where people can come to learn about you, what makes you tick, what do you have to offer, what sets you apart, right? Then it's about finding people that can connect you with the people who will connect you with the people who will get you your dream job. That's what LinkedIn is all about. This is not an overnight thing, right? Even if you burned the midnight oil to build your LinkedIn profile, building a strong network, a strong high quality network is not something that you can do overnight. It takes time and effort, but if you really see it through, then your network is going to be there for you. And I'm experiencing this now firsthand because I have been utterly astounded by how my network has shown up for me during this most recent job search of mine. People coming out of the woodwork to offer advice, to connect me with potential opportunities, and just to be there for me in a way that I honestly didn't expect. But that's when you have a good quality network that is relevant for what you want to be doing, they're there for you. All right. Another note about building a network is that it is about both quantity and quality. You need to have, you do need to have a certain size, a certain number of connections in order to really see the impact on, your job search and your kind of capability to find and connect with new people and really spread awareness about yourself out there. But you want to make sure that those people are relevant to what you want to be doing, right? So you're not just randomly, spraying and praying, like we call it, where you're just connecting with anyone that's willing to connect with you. You want to make sure that it's high quality. And we'll talk about how to find those people. Okay, so with whom should you connect? We're going to talk about this, and then we're going to go live to LinkedIn, and I'll show you, we'll go through the flow of connecting with someone. Okay, so first of all, connect with people you know in real life, current and former employers, employees, partners, coworkers, clients, anyone that, again, is professionally relevant for your goals and who, knows who you are, has worked with you. When we talk about personal connections, that's where it's more of a judgment call, right? So, I'm connected with my sister on LinkedIn, but my sister is in a very similar field to me. So she's arguably quite relevant. I'm not connected with my mother because she's not relevant for me. So you make the decision for yourself about kind of how broad a definition of relevancy you want to give yourself. But it's not like, Facebook or whatever, where it's just like a given that you're going to connect with all your friends and family. LinkedIn is your professional network. All right, the second group of folks that you can connect with are people you meet in real life. So there's two kind of elements to this. The first is someone like me, right? You meet someone at a professional event or a workshop. And these days, a lot of that's going to happen remotely. That's okay. In fact, that makes it even more valuable to then connect with them on LinkedIn, because that initial connection, that initial acquaintance can be exponentially strengthened by having that LinkedIn connection. And I'll tell you a story to kind of illustrate how that happens. But what I would say is, when my teams, when in previous roles, and I would have teams that would go out to conferences and trade shows, the rule was you collect business cards, you connect with every single person you had a conversation with every evening. You go to your hotel room, you invite them to connect on LinkedIn, because it's just one of the most effective ways of cementing that initial connection that you made with someone. So here's a story I like to tell. It's not a real story, but it certainly could be. Okay, so let's say that I'm waiting for a bus, and I see someone next to me eating a delicious looking cupcake, and I love cupcakes. They're kind of just a passion of mine. So I strike up a conversation with her, and we talk for a few minutes about our shared love of cupcakes, and which shops have the best ones, and how to get just the right consistency in your cake and your frosting or whatever. And then our buses come, and we quickly exchange information, and we go our separate ways. And I go home and I email her with the information she gave me, and she responds, and we email back and forth a few times, but then, we get busy, and that conversation gets buried. And if I want to bring that back up, if I want to resuscitate that relationship for whatever reason, I have to, first of all, remember that it happened and remember that I know her. And then I have to dig up that conversation and reach out and hope that she remembers me. What if instead, though, I go home and I connect with her on LinkedIn, and then we message back and forth, and we both get really busy, and our communication falls off. But then 3 months later, LinkedIn lets me know that she has a work anniversary. And a couple of weeks after that, she sees in her newsfeed that I commented on a post that someone put up about cupcakes. So not only is the connection always there once you make it on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn has all of these built-in ways to make sure that you stay engaged with what's going on in your network, and that you have avenues to engage and re-engage with these people if you so choose. And LinkedIn can prompt you, can make it easy for you to do that. And we'll go through a lot of those in a little while. So that's why LinkedIn is just a really great additional way to strengthen the initial link created when you meet someone new. Finally, the third category of people with whom you can connect is people with whom you have something in common. So if you don't know someone personally or haven't met someone personally, then there's that relevancy, right? How are they relevant for you and how are you relevant for them? And so it's important to find these points of commonality. Some very popular ones are alma maters. If you went to the same school, you've worked at the same companies, you have connections in common, right? So friends of friends, or what LinkedIn calls second degree connections. If you belong to the same LinkedIn groups, and we're going to talk about groups later on in the session tonight. These are all ways, ways to find people that have something in common with you so they're more relevant for you. And those are ways to find great people to add to your network. So Darren asked a good question that I want to address right now, which is what would be an issue with connecting with people outside your professional areas of interest? So Darren, what you're doing there is you are diluting the quality of your network. It's not that those people aren't interesting or don't have interesting things to say, but if you have, when you're on LinkedIn, you should have a goal that you're working towards. Some element of professional development, career advancement, just trying to get to somewhere that is not where you are right now. And LinkedIn is going to be most effective for you if you build a network that is relevant for that goal. Part of the, part of the opportunity and potential of LinkedIn, actually most of it has to do with who's in your network. It impacts the content that you see and the posts that you see. It impacts who sees your content, and it impacts, the other things that are shown to you, like suggested jobs or groups or that sort of thing. And so, a lot of it has to do with like data and algorithms, but the truth of the matter is that your network is going to be most effective for you if it's as relevant as possible. So that's why it would be best if your network was full of people that are professionally relevant for you. Now, again, that can be a very broad definition if you want to make it a broad definition. But it should be, there should be some way of linking in some way, even if it's very indirect. Okay, let's go to LinkedIn. Oops, that's for later. Okay, let's go to LinkedIn. And you all should be familiar with this because session 2 really assumes that you have a LinkedIn account, even if you haven't fully built it out yet. So you should know how to sign into LinkedIn, and you should be familiar with the homepage. So this is my homepage with the news feed in the middle, some of my personal info and data on the left here, and then advertisements that LinkedIn wants to show me on the right. And here's the top nav. Now, what I want to show you first is just searching for people to connect with, right? So specifically related to that last group that I mentioned, the people with whom you have something in common. Well, how do you find those people? So I'm going to do a search. So let's say I want to, for this new job, my next job, I've decided, forget marketing, forget tech. I want to go into cupcakes, right? I want to do something related to cupcakes. So I'm going to search cupcakes. Now, just like, let me make this a little bigger for everyone. There we go. That's nice. Okay. So just like with Google, LinkedIn just gives me all the potential relevant results, but I can narrow that down. So first I'm going to go and say, okay, I'm looking for people to add to my network. So I'm going to click people. So these are all the people who have some relevancy to the keyword cupcakes, but that's not enough, right? So now I'm going to go for all filters. And you can see all the potential ways that I can narrow this down to find the most relevant people with the most points of commonality. So I can say, okay, I only want friends of friends. That would be second degree connections. I could even, if I'm interested in specific companies, I could narrow by company or past company. School. So if I want to find someone who went to specific schools or my alma mater, for example, industry, profile, language, etc. Let's say I want someone who is interested in volunteering because that's a big interest of mine, and that's a point of commonality, etc. And then I can also type in other types of keywords if they weren't reflected in the filters. So let's show results. So this is showing me second degree connections for people relevant to cupcakes. So look at all this, right? All these people who are friends of friends who have some relevancy to cupcakes. Now, they're not all going to be great, right? So Johnny is a CEO at Johnny Cupcakes, but he's in Boston. So that's not great. So maybe I should limit this by location. Here's Kelly. She is a marketing director of Cupcakes and Cashmere. That might be really interesting. And she is a shared connection with someone that I used to work with. So that might be great. So this is how you find people. You use the filters to find potential people who might be relevant for you. Then what do you do? Okay. Do not just go down the line and click connect, 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 connect. Okay. That's not the best way to get people you don't know to connect with you. Okay. So first of all, the best way to connect with someone new that you haven't met before and don't have any other connection with is to get introduced. So in this case, if I was interested in connecting with Kelly, the first thing I would do is go to her profile. Never connect with someone unless you've actually done your homework about them. Kelly has a LinkedIn profile because she wants people to learn about her and to read it. So I'm going to read it because there might be other points of commonality that I am going to discover that will be even better, right? She's done all this marketing, okay? She, looks like that might be it in terms of points of commonality, marketing plus our shared connection, okay? Even now, I'm not going to click connect. Instead, I'm going to say, oh, we have a mutual connection. Britt is a mutual connection. I know Britt quite well. She's a former boss of mine. So in this case, what I would do is I wouldn't request to connect with Kelly. I would reach out to Britt and I would send Britt a message or otherwise contact her if maybe we talk every day, maybe we go running together, who knows, but reach out to Britt and ask Britt if she'd be willing to connect me with Kelly and introduce me. This is how networking on LinkedIn goes. And it's the whole point of LinkedIn. This is why people have LinkedIn networks, is to be connectors and to get connected. So this is an absolutely acceptable request to make of Britt. And if Britt doesn't know Kelly that well or doesn't feel comfortable, she'll just say so. All right, but let's say that I'm not comfortable reaching out to Britt, or Kelly and I don't have a shared connection, but we have other points of commonality. So then my next best avenue is to request to connect with Kelly and hope that our points of commonality are compelling enough for her to be willing to connect. So how do I do that? I click connect on her profile and then always add a note. Because what is Kelly going to think if she just gets, if I just click send here, LinkedIn sends an automatic message to Kelly that says, I'd like to join your professional network on LinkedIn, Sherry Tishman. And Kelly says, who's Sherry Tishman? Ignore, right? So I need to add a note. And this lets me personalize the outreach to Kelly so that I can provide context. I can let Kelly know about all these points of commonality and why I'm reaching out to her. That will let her decide if I'm relevant enough for her to add to her network. What should this message say? I'm going to give you a template that I use for pretty much every LinkedIn message or LinkedIn request that I send, not just connection requests, but other messages, requests for recommendations, requests to be introduced to people. I use this basic template. First, you say, hi, first name, right? And then you should have a line that tells them how they know you, reminds them, or explains why you're relevant to them. So this is where you drop your points of commonality. So in the case of Kelly, for example, I might name drop, even if I'm not comfortable reaching out to Britt to ask her for an intro. Maybe I don't know Britt that well. I'll say, hey, I see we both know Britt Bingham. Isn't she wonderful? I really enjoyed working with her back at Raise Me. Right. So that's name dropping is a great tactic. Or, if you belong to the same group, let them know, oh, we both belong to the Cupcakes R Us group. I really enjoy your posts. Or I see we both went to, University of California. I really enjoyed my time there, whatever. So call out your points of commonality and then go to the next line. I actually often use the phrase, I'm reaching out because, right? Just be straightforward. I'm reaching out because I am looking for my next opportunity and I really want to get into cupcakes. I'm hoping that you'd be willing to connect and give me a little advice. Share your insights. Tell me about your experiences, right? So that's what I want from Kelly, and I'm being very clear about it. And then, I usually take some time to provide some more details or suggestions. So in particular, if you're asking someone for a recommendation, for example, which we talk about in session 1, you want to give them suggestions for what to focus on. In this case, you might just provide more details about what it is about cupcakes you want to learn, or maybe you don't need any more detail. And then you just say, thanks in advance, Sherry. I like to say thanks in advance because I read somewhere once that when you say thanks in advance, it actually psychologically primes someone to think that they're going to fulfill your request. I don't know if it's actually true, but. So that's the message template that I would send. That's the message that I would send to Kelly when I'm requesting to connect. And then I click send. I'm not going to do that in this case because this is just demonstration. And then hopefully Kelly would say yes, and then I'd have this new, very relevant connection. So that is how you connect with someone that you don't already know or haven't directly met on LinkedIn. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. I think that's it. So that was a lot. And so I want to break now so that you can spend some time workshopping this a little. Do your own searches on your LinkedIn profile. You can take the time to do that. Search for folks that you maybe already know, or search for folks that you have points of commonality with using the search filters that I showed you. And then you could even fire off some messages using the template that I shared. Or you can not do that and just take a little break while I answer some questions, and that's totally fine. But I'll go through and make sure that I answer all the as many of the questions that came up previously as I can, as well as any new ones that you'd like to put into the chat. And then in a few minutes, we'll continue on with how to engage with the network once you have people in your network. So let me scroll through here and see what sorts of questions people put previously. Okay, so one question is how to update your profile without triggering notifications and congratulations from connections, because if you haven't updated all your work experiences and stuff in a while. So that's in the account settings and privacy. If you go to me here and then go to settings and privacy, you can actually click on visibility. Here we go. It's in visibility of your LinkedIn activity. Share profile updates with your network. So you can just change this to no, and then it won't update them. And then once you're done making all the major updates, you can click it back to yes, so that when something exciting does happen that you do want them to know about, it will notify them. Okay, so back to LinkedIn. Okay, next. All right. I'm just skimming everyone's post to make sure that I click everything. Okay. Okay. Great question, Ayuko. Do you accept all invitations that come to you? I'm so glad you asked this question, because especially once you have a really great profile and once you start connecting with other people, your visibility on LinkedIn is going to grow and people are going to start finding you and they're going to start sending you requests to connect. The short answer to your question is no, I don't accept all invitations that come to me. I accept relevant invitations that come to me. So I need to know about the person. I need to understand how relevant they are for my own professional goals. And if I don't know that, or if they don't seem relevant, then I ignore them. I say no to the connection request. So that means someone has to have a well built out profile so that I can really learn about them. And ideally, they will have sent me an actual personalized message and not just the automated, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn. Okay. Now, especially in the field that I'm in, a lot of people seem relevant and then it ends up they just want to sell me something, because a lot of people work at software companies that are trying to sell me stuff, which I get. I mean, that's just their job. That's part of the industry that we're in. And that's okay, because if they really get annoying, I just unconnect from them and then they can't message me anymore. So it's as simple as that. But that rarely happens, honestly. Usually people take a hint once, I say no or ignore the messages they send. But yeah, so you have to decide for yourself what your threshold of relevancy is. And that is, the same threshold that you would use to reach it, to want to connect with someone proactively. You should use that to decide if you want to say yes to a connection request. Because you want to, even if it's easy because someone's requesting, you want to make sure that you keep your network high quality. Does anyone have other questions before we move on? Okay, great. Keep them coming. You don't have to wait for the breaks to ask questions, and I will address them as they're relevant and as they come up during the session. All right, now we're getting to some of the fun stuff. Engaging with your network. Oh, Darren has a question. So how often would you recommend conducting searches like this? That's a great question. I would say you want to get a good 50 to 100 people in your network. So if you don't have that many people yet, I would work at it pretty consistently until you do, as long as they're high quality. After that, probably it'll happen relatively organically, but it depends on what your goals are. If you are actively looking for a job right now, you want to expand your network relatively quickly. And you're going to be on LinkedIn a lot anyway, doing the job search stuff. So I would say it should be part of that whole workflow. And you would probably be doing it several times a week, if not daily. If you're not actively looking for a job though, then you don't have to do it as often. I would say, I generally suggest that if you're not actively looking for a job, you don't really have to work proactively on your profile to update your profile, except for maybe like once a month, you make sure that your profile is up to date. You could probably use something similar for, expanding your network proactively. Although again, if you're staying engaged using some of the strategies that we're about to go over, it's going to happen organically anyway. And you're going to be on LinkedIn probably, once a week or more, just staying engaged and connected with your network anyway. So like I said, it's going to happen organically. Hope that answers your question. Okay. So like I said, it's not enough to just connect with people. Once you have people in your network, you need to engage with them, because those connections need to stay strong so that they can work for you. And part of that is being involved with what's going on across your network. So how can you do that? So LinkedIn has a bunch of different ways to do this, but actually one of the most powerful is right up here. Two of the most powerful are right up here in the main navigation. So first we're going to go to notifications. All right, and the notifications feed has gotten a little busier recently with some of the updates, because LinkedIn has all of these owned content feeds like the wrap up and get hired and all this stuff, which is just from LinkedIn. So like if I clicked over it, it's a newsletter that LinkedIn curates on how to like help you with whatever topic they're talking about, right? So it's, you know, it's fine, but it's not quite your network, you know, someone writing for LinkedIn News. So I tend to, these are like the last things that I pay attention to. But these updates are so valuable. Someone in my network shared a post about starting a new job, right? Or, well, people viewing my profile, we went over that in session 1. But companies that I'm following, people in my network are reacting to specific posts. A lot of my stuff has to do with job searching now, which is why I'm having trouble finding folks. Someone in my network is attending an event, right? So these are little indications of things going on in my network. Some of the most powerful ones are the notifications of birthdays or work anniversaries or people starting new jobs, because those are triggers. Those are reasons to reach out to people. So if I was trying to make sure that I strengthen my connection or refresh my connection with Suzanne, this would be a great opportunity to do that. I could reach out and say congratulations, and suddenly I'm engaged with Suzanne again, right? So this is the notifications tab is a great way to stay up to date with like milestones, I guess you could call it, and triggers for reaching out. You know, even for example, Steve attending LinkedIn Spark. Well, I can reach out to Steve and say, hey, I saw you're attending LinkedIn Spark. Tell me about it, right? I'm interested in it. You know, so it's just, these are triggers to reach out, reasons. The second powerful way to engage with your network and stay engaged is actually just the homepage newsfeed. This newsfeed is you know, similar to, like, let's say the Facebook newsfeed, if you're familiar with that. It's just a snapshot of activity, things people are posting, liking, commenting on, and sharing in your network. Not just people, also related to companies you follow, groups you're a part of. We'll talk about all of those a little bit later. But if paging through this, it's a great way to understand what people are doing. So for example, if I wanted to stay connected with Daryl, I could respond. I could like his post. I could comment on it. Or Jose too, right? So these are ways to just see what people are up to and then engage with them directly. And if I wanted to get on Jose's radar, right, then I could like this and comment on it or share it even, and he would see that. He'd get notified that I was doing those things. So that's a great way to get on his radar. And then if I continue to do that with his posts, then he continues to get notified that I'm engaging, and then it's a great time for me to reach out to him. And I'm going to go over this a little bit when I talk specifically about target profiles. But this newsfeed is just a great way to A, stay up to date, and B, to engage with people and in a very respectful way, because you're engaging with stuff that they are already doing. The other useful thing the newsfeed is for, which we'll get to in a little bit, is getting content to share with across your network, right? So if let's see, if I gotta find a good one. Oh my goodness, lots of just updates. Okay, so if I was in a group where people were talking about ACH rules, right? Well, then this is a great piece of content for me to share in that group. And I just found it by paging through my newsfeed. All right, so those are really valuable. Let me go back here to make sure I'm not. Okay, right. So now we're at the point where we go a little deeper into staying engaged with making sure your network is as strong as possible. Okay. It's not, again, it's not just about connecting with people. It's not even just about liking and congratulating and whatever. It's about really providing value to your network, because that's how you keep those connections as strong as possible. You can't just be a lurker on LinkedIn and expect to get the full value out of it. You have to participate in some way. That doesn't mean that you have to be posting every day and creating original content, et cetera, but you do need to participate and provide some sort of value in some way. So we'll go over some of the ways to do that. The first is groups. It's my personal opinion that groups are one of the most underutilized features of LinkedIn, or underappreciated at least. A lot of people are in groups, so they're maybe not underutilized. To get to groups, go to work and then groups. takes you to a nice new page where all of your groups are listed. I think you're allowed to join 50 groups and then they cut you off. So depending on how excited you are about groups, you can curate that. But I would start with like 5 because groups can be overwhelming, especially the really busy ones. Groups are basically big discussion forums, but it's organized around topics. So what you have in a group is a whole bunch of people, most of them that you've never met, who share a common interest with you, meaning that's a point of commonality. So suddenly there's an entire group of people that you have a point of commonality with. These are likely great people to add to your network, and here they all are in one place talking to each other. So groups are a great way to build, to find people to connect with as well, and then to stay connected in a strong way with those people. So how do you search for groups? You search just the same way you search for anything else on LinkedIn, typing in keywords, and then you can use these top filters. So in this case, I'm going to click groups. And oh my goodness, look at all of the cupcakes groups. Okay. So now you can scroll through and take a look. Okay. So most of them have small members. A lot of them are, specific businesses that have created their own groups. But Everything Cupcakes looks pretty good. It's a cupcake catering company, but there's over 1,000 members. So there must be something going on there where they're talking a lot about cupcakes. This is mostly about caterers. But here we go, related groups, easy cake decorating ideas and tutorials. This looks like a good one for me, right? If I'm interested in cupcakes. Yeah. Okay, so this looks like a great group. So in this case, I would request to join, and the admin would then review me and make sure that I'm relevant for that group. In this case, I'm actually not, so I'm not going to request to join. But and then I would be able to go into the group and participate with everyone. So I'm going to go back to my group so that you can see the inside of a group that I'm actually a member of and see how it works. So let's go to one that I know is pretty good. So Volunteer Match. So this is a group I actually used to run back in the day. So you can see the interface is very similar to the rest of LinkedIn. The middle section here is where all the posts are. Okay. So these are posts that group members have shared, and then people can, it looks like a newsfeed because that's what it is. It's a discussion forum, and people can engage with the posts. So let's find one that people have engaged with. Oh, that's just what the admins recommended. Okay. So let's say that let's say that I am really interested in this post here and I like it, and then I comment on it, and Pretty comments back, and and then someone else from the group gets involved, and suddenly we're having this conversation in the comment thread of the post. Well, then that's a really great opportunity for me to reach out to Pretty and the other people in the conversation and request to connect. And I can use the same template and say, we're having a really great conversation in the Volunteer Match group, and I would like to add you to my network. I think that we, have a lot in common. They're going to say yes, right? They obviously are engaged with me. I'm obviously relevant to, their interests in what they're doing. And so they're going to say yes. And I found them and connected with them already through this group. It's almost like I've already met them, right? So that's the way to leverage a group to expand your network. But you need to be directly engaged with people for it to really work. Otherwise, it's just weird. And Jackie, thank you for your question about the conversations that happen in the group threads are public for the group. So group members can see what the conversations that are being had. When I request to connect with someone, that's private, just between me and them. Okay. So that's how to leverage groups to expand your network. And then, you want to, again, be engaged with your groups in order to make sure that you are providing value there, that you are a, kind of productive member of that group. So, you know, you don't always have to be posting content, but at least engage with what other people post. And if you find something interesting that's relevant, then definitely share it to your group. And that's one of the things that you can leverage your newsfeed for, is to look for things that might be relevant for the groups that you're a part of. The other, let me make sure I'm not jumping ahead. Yes, okay. The other place that I think is an important, this sort of will influence what shows on your newsfeed, but there are other ways to get to this. But if on the left-hand column there, I clicked discover more or explore more, and this takes me to a version of my network for people and companies that I'm following. So these are what are called influencers, you could say. These are like famous people that get the blue in box next to their name. And when you follow them, you get notified of their posts and articles. Okay, and that actually shows up on your profile. Let me show you. That shows up at the bottom of your profile down here in interests. See, influencers, companies, groups, schools, right? So not only is this a great thing to have on your profile, showcasing that you follow people who are relevant to your field and what you want to be doing, it shows that you're, you know, staying up to date and you're in the know. But it also gives you a source for content to share in your groups and with the rest of your network. Similarly, following companies will give you an idea of, you know, what those companies are posting could also be really very relevant, because a lot of companies post interesting content, and other pages to follow. And when you follow these people, again, they show up in your news feed, so you see their content, and you can follow hashtags as well. And hashtags are like topics. So if you are particularly interested in topics, let's take a look, right? So topics that might be interesting for me, right? And then I can start following them. And then those things will show up in my newsfeed as well. So it's like an interesting mix, not to like be too comparative, but it's an interesting mix of like Facebook and Twitter functionality with some stuff that's just special to LinkedIn. So that's what I think. I think that this discover section is really nice to help you find good content to share with your network so that you can provide value. That's really it for the main content tonight. So let's break there and see if people have questions, and then we can kind of go off-roading a little bit if people want to talk about other specific things, for sure. But if you have any questions, you want to dig deeper into something that we went over, or anything, let me know. You can also use this time to explore groups and start joining groups, to search for influencers and companies to follow, to add to your newsfeed content so that you can start discovering things to share. You know, so the groups, you can actually control the notifications of like what you see related to groups in the account settings tab under communications. So you can control group notifications. Where is it? Groups, yeah. So then group notifications, you can get a digest of stuff, which is kind of nice, right? Once a week, you get a digest of everything that's happened in your group. That's a really great way to just see anything new that might be relevant for the rest of your network, right? So if you haven't explored this account settings page, there's so much here. It's super deep and flexible. So really explore it so that you can configure your account to what's right for you. In terms of groups and in terms of, kind of going through and finding content and sharing content and all that, you know, again, especially if you're not actively job hunting, I would say once a week, go on LinkedIn, spend 20 minutes paging through your news feed, checking out what's happening with your groups, sharing anything that seems relevant, responding, commenting, congratulating people, liking stuff, just to be present, right? If you are actively job searching, you probably want to do it more than once a week. You probably want, you'll, again, like I said, and we'll talk about this more next month, you'll likely be on LinkedIn close to every day because it'll be a major tool for you. So make sure that you are paying attention to your news feed when you sign on, and engaging, at least once or twice a week with your network. One thing I forgot to mention, and it actually seems to have disappeared from my presentation here, is the idea of target profiles. So target profiles, it's this idea that there are likely, depending on what your goals are, specific people in your network. Let's go to my network. Specific people in your network who you care about more in this at this time, right? People that you know are more relevant for you, people that you think could be good mentors for you, people who work at a company that you want to work at, people who are in a very similar job to what you want to be doing, right? These are what I would say target profiles, and that these are people that you want to have a stronger connection with and be more engaged with than the rest of your network. Make a list of these people. It can be as big or small as you want, but I wouldn't make it too big, because these are the people you're going to be really proactively paying attention to, right? You're going to be making sure you see everything that they post, that you engage with them, and that you recognize opportunities or triggers to reach out directly and spark a more direct interaction with them that could then lead to a conversation and networking and introductions, et cetera, depending on what it is that you want from them. And having that target profile is a way to play sort of a medium, the target profile list is a way to play sort of a medium to long-term game for people that you don't know all that well and you don't feel comfortable reaching out to right now, but you feel that if you can just strengthen that connection a little bit, they could be really valuable for you. Again, none of this is it feels very almost Machiavellian in a lot of ways. I have friends who they're like, oh, I hate networking. It feels dirty. No, no, no. This is the whole point of LinkedIn. The whole point of LinkedIn is to engage with people who are relevant for you, get interested in what they're saying and get them interested in what you're saying, and then find ways to help each other. They're on LinkedIn because they want to be doing that too. So all you need to do is make sure that that relevancy, that commonality rises to the surface. Now, we talked about this a little bit at the end of session 1, and it'll come up again at the end of session 2, but one of the most critical things about LinkedIn is to be yourself, right? So that's why this works, is because all this networking and stuff is based on who you are really and who you want to be and what your goals really are professionally. And that's what having a clear picture of that and then presenting that to LinkedIn as you do your networking, as you engage with people, that's what will benefit. That's how you'll get the benefit from LinkedIn. If you are doing all this with some sort of alias persona, right? This alter ego that's not really you and not really connected to what you want, well, then of course it's not going to be a straight line to achieving your goals. Okay, here's a question. I previously applied to a group with a lot of members, but never got accepted. Would it make sense to remove and resubmit my request to join the group? So it's a good question, Darren. In previous versions of LinkedIn, you could actually see how active a group was. Let's see if that's still true. It doesn't seem to say that anymore. So you used to be able to see like how recently has the group been active, so that you could know like maybe it's just a dead group and no one's like curating it and no one's really participating in it, in which case it's not worth your time anymore, even for large groups. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's a way to see that anymore. Um, so you can remove it and then resubmit and try again. What have you got to lose, right? If you never got accepted because they didn't want you there, then that's just what will happen again. And you can also, and these are not mutually exclusive, reach out to the admin of the group directly and see if you can understand, you know, if there's some issue. And that's also totally fun. All right. Any other questions? We have more time. You know, I can actually stay another for a little while longer if there are more questions. If not, I'll just take you to this last part here. You know, put in some time, like I said, especially when you're building your network, and then of course staying engaged with them. It's a it's a process. I was talking to Darren before the session started. This is a marathon, not a sprint, right? So you want to make sure that your end goal is really clear in your mind, and that you keep that as your North Star as you're finding people to connect with, as you're reaching out to them, as you're staying engaged with them, because then when there's an opportunity for them to help you, they'll be there for you. Be real, be yourself, like I said. Have fun with it, especially when you start diving into groups, and you know, some of the more public activity on LinkedIn. You're gonna find and meet people that you never would have known existed otherwise, and that is so exciting. Not just from a professional standpoint, but I mean, super cool to get connected with all these people from all over the world who, you know, are interested in the same things you are, or could be really helpful for you. So have fun with that. And then next month, we are going to be, as you saw on the summary that I showed you, we're going to be diving into how to search for jobs on LinkedIn, and then how to leverage this strong network that you're building to help it be more likely that you get an interview and get the job. And then we'll talk about building a strong professional brand and reputation on LinkedIn, and how that can make it even, I want to say easy, because I wouldn't say that my current job search is easy, but it's a whole different experience when people come to you, right? When you've got recruiters reaching out to you several times a week, et cetera. And you've got people in your network reaching out to introduce you to folks, even when you didn't explicitly ask. So it's still a lot of work, but it's a different sort of work. So we'll talk about that next month as well.